Our presenter tonight is Brian Peters, and Brian started his Toastmasters journey back in 1998. He became a competent communicator and eventually he served as an area governor. Just over 2 years ago, Brian was integral in starting a new club at our company called Facility Improvement Masters. Brian served as the inaugural president, and last year served as the vice president of education, while also serving as an area director. Outside of Toastmasters, Brian is a mechanical engineer at UNESCO, a local professional services firm that helps to maximize the operational efficiency of schools and improve the quality of the learning environment. In his free time, Brian enjoys time with his family, going biking, playing volleyball, and camping. We're excited to have him here today. Please welcome our presenter today, District 106 trainer, Brian Peters.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Dave. It's odd to step up to the podium without any applause. It's so traditional in Toastmasters to hear clapping when you get introduced, but thank you for the wonderful introduction. And the last one you mentioned with my introduction, I felt a little necessity to introduce my company or give a little advertisement, but the last one, I enjoy spending time with my family, and this weekend I get to do camping and spending time with my family. And it's kind of appropriate when we choose our path. We're heading up to Gooseberry Falls this weekend, and I'm excited because Saturday morning's weather forecast is 33 degrees. So it'll be nice and chilly. We got to make sure we're well prepared for this weekend. And we hopefully are going to choose a good path. So that's the objective for today. It's about Toastmasters, about the pathways for Toastmasters. A quick review of the agenda. We're going to start off with a couple polling questions. We haven't done polling questions. This is a second Toolbox Tuesday, but I'm excited to ask a couple questions that helps give me feedback to prepare and present some of the topics. The three bolded items are really the focus of this presentation and this discussion, which is an overview of pathways, which many of you may already be familiar with, the online resources that are available for everyone, some bookmarks, some web pages to bookmark if you don't already have them, and an overview of the assessment. We're going to take the assessment together to demonstrate and talk about how you can use that with the club. Conclude with a couple questions and turn it over to yourselves, to everyone in the audience, to ask questions. So the first question, Dave, if you want to go ahead and start the polling, is have you chosen your path? Yes or no? I should have added a third option, which is I don't know. So perhaps if you don't know, just select the no button. I'm going to go ahead and take the poll myself. Oh, I cannot. Panelists and hosts are not able to take the poll, just so you know, Dave. You probably already knew that. So Dave, we'll give another few more seconds for that question. And if you've already answered the question, you can start thinking about the next one. Question number 2 is indicate if you hold one of the following. And I've seen 75% of the group have taken or have chosen a path. So the second question is indicate if you hold one of the following officer roles. The VP Education, President, Secretary, or none of the above. And while you're pondering that question and not sure which positions you hold, I'll let you know that those are the 3 positions in your club that are able to access the base camp as base camp managers. VP of Education is primarily responsible for managing the base camp activities for the club, but President and Secretary also have access to see everybody's status. So with that, I'll just give another few more seconds for everyone to answer. And Dave, can you post the results? So actually the majority, I only see 4 of the 13 participants, 2 presidents, a VP Ed, and 1 secretary. So thank you, welcome, and this will be especially important for you. So quick overview of our educational plan. And as Dave mentioned in my introduction, I started with my competent communicator. My competent Toastmaster actually was my very first program, and I started with the competent communication manual. We're still using some of these manuals today. Many have moved into pathways, but we traditionally had 2 tracks. You had the communication track, and you have, secondly, the leadership track. Well, today we've now have merged those into the pathways. We now have 10 separate paths, and they're all focused on 5 cornerstones or competencies of Toastmasters: public speaking, interpersonal communication, strategic leadership, management, and confidence. And each of the 10 paths contain one or more of, at least one or more of those core competencies. So it really has taken those 2 tracks of communication and leadership and merged them together. And it's these 10 separate paths that we want to select and take the path. What's great is for new members, new Toastmasters that have never participated, it's more geared to them as an objective of a goal. And it covers all of leadership and communication skills all in the same paths. In further detail, each of those different pathways have different levels. I believe many of you on the call are probably already very familiar with this information. It's just a recap. So if you need to learn more, hopefully in a few slides, or you'll see the demonstration of more resources, you can learn more about these programs. In a few minutes, I'm going to log in, or I will have logged in to the Toastmasters website, and we're going to go into selecting your path. And you can see the base camp it starts with when you recommend the first path is free. So later, I've already selected path. You'll see that mine charges $20. But the first time you take this program and you select your assignment, it will be free for the first one. That assessment, just a quick 1-minute overview, and then we'll go into detail and actually take the full assessment together, is to answer 26 questions. The first one is your language. You answer your language, then you answer the very first question, which focuses on, well, what are you interested in learning about? You select 3 of them. And then the following questions after those 3 really narrow on, well, what of those 3 things is even more important to you? So if you don't know anything about those assessments, those paths, this assessment process will help you to identify which one would be the most likely path for you to choose. And here's some examples of some of the questions. And again, we'll go through them in a few minutes, but there's a lot of questions about how you feel and where are you confident? Are you not confident? And a lot of questions like this that ask for varying degrees of agreement. At the conclusion, we'll see recommendations for paths. And I want to re-emphasize, and I'll do this again later, that those paths are not required. So at the end of the assessment, it's only a recommendation. So you can select that path because it's something you like, or you can look at the other paths and see if you really prefer them. Again, there's 10 paths. The first 3 are recommended, and here are the additional 7. Again, you can select any of them that you choose. The assessment process is primarily geared to help you determine which is the best one. So a couple quick questions. We've just covered that. A path overview, technical online resources. Next, I'd like to talk about where are the online resources? How can you find them? What are some web pages to bookmark? And then after we go through that, we'll quickly demonstrate the assessment. So first, for online resources, many of you already know D106tm.org. If you don't have it, bookmark it. I'll show you in a few minutes. We'll get into the website itself. But under Info, right in the middle of the page, select Pathways, and it'll take you to the Pathways page to give you a lot more information. The second is the Toastmasters.org website. In fact, if you have not logged into the site, that is the very first step. It is logging into Toastmasters.org. That's how you take the assessment. That's how you'll track all of your speeches and all of the information that you take on your paths. So all of those evaluations, they can all be uploaded into the tool, but determining your assessment really starts first with logging into the website. And the third and final online website that I'd like to share with you is a YouTube. We now have a YouTube channel, and if you search in YouTube for District 106 Toastmasters, you can subscribe. If you're not familiar with subscribing to YouTube channels, I can show you a little bit about that a little bit later, but the benefit is once you have subscribed, assuming you have a Gmail account, you can see current videos. Last week's Toolbox Tuesday video is up there, and presumably after this session is done, this webinar will also be on that website. So before I step into the next questions, I'm going to now switch over to my web browser and first start with some of those online resources. So I briefly mentioned them. First is district106tm.org. If you want to follow along and you have the ability to, you can, but I'll quickly show you. Under info is pathways. Go ahead and select pathways. Quick overview of the site. The very first question, and I like this design because the very first link is to who is my club's pathway guide or ambassador. If you have any questions and need to talk to somebody, clicking that link, you can find your club number and figure out who is your contact for the pathway guide. So that's the very first basic information. I have more questions. Who was my pathway guide? I don't remember. I don't have their information. You can click on that to find out who is your pathway guide. But if I scroll down a little bit more, there's a lot of links here. Perhaps intimidating, but I'll try to break it down in terms of where there's really good information. The icebreakers, the pathway projects, all of these are great links, and I'm just for the sake of time, I'm going to let you click on them yourselves. These links to helpful YouTube videos, there's 5 sets of videos right here, and each of them are very good, very basics. Logging into Toastmasters.org, I'm not going to demonstrate that, but if individuals are starting out very simple, I don't know how to log in, that's a great web link, a YouTube video to watch. It's about a few minutes long. And then they actually talk through what I'm going to talk about in a few minutes, which is the pathways assessment and accessing your path later. So even after the assessment is chosen, there's additional videos to find. And if you want even more information and to learn about all the different programs, other districts have rolled out the pathways as well. And 2 of them that are really good are the District 57 Toastmasters site. I'll go ahead and click on that one. And you see when I clicked it, it opened into another web page. And if I scroll down, there's these videos. There's videos here as well. This is the same that's on the Toastmasters.org website. There's a number of videos and materials and more background information. But the one I actually like a little bit more is District 4. In fact, there's two links here. They're on the same site. The second is actually specific to paths and projects. But District 4 Toastmasters, if I click on that one, there's some really good information that I liked in terms of, sorry, I'm scrolling down. There's some very good overview information. I'm scrolling down to a section that I found really helpful, which is pathway resources. There are some PDF files in here called pathway resources. There's a quick start guide for members, a 1-page PDF, just a 1-page, very short description. I'll go ahead and click on that link to show you as an example. This is a member quick start guide. So you want to print some of these off. It gives you very simple directions for new members, maybe even new to computers. Where do I start? Where do I begin? Here's a great sample of a PDF that you could print and bring to the meetings. Same thing with that Basecamp Manager quick start guide. And later down here, there's some quick getting started using pathways for the Basecamp Manager. For the VP Education that's on the call, and anyone else, there's some you see 44-page PDF, a very well laid out website, and some very, very useful information in PDF files. So I just wanted to show those in terms of where to find them. Again, start at D106tm.org, go under info and pathways, and if you just scroll down, you'll find those links to those sites for prior rollouts. And as you'll see right at the bottom, the first step is to sign in. So you can just click on that link to sign in. I mentioned I'm already signed into the Toastmasters.org website. So here is the site. And again, it's pathways. So if you select pathways and select the first pathways, that'll get you to the pathways landing page or the home page for pathways. And directly from here, if I scroll down, you can see there's again, this video is there. Welcome to pathways. If you want information on each of those 10 different paths, you can simply click on one. I clicked on dynamic leadership. It'll give you additional information about that path. Let's take a step back. If I scroll down a little bit further on this landing page, how pathways began. Each of these are 2 to 3 minute videos. So if, again, any members are new to Toastmasters and they want to be more familiar with pathways, what is it about? 2 to 3 minutes a piece. So in about 15 minutes, they could watch all 5 of these videos and really understand what pathways is for and how it's designed. But what we came here to do is talk about how to take the assessment. And so I'm going to go ahead and click on Access Pathways. Or actually, what I'm going to do is take the assessment. So again, earlier I mentioned on the slide deck that it's free. So I've already selected a base camp. I've selected a path, excuse me, not a base camp, but I've selected a path. So mine, it now says $20 because I've already selected one. The second path I select will cost $20 or $45 if you include the materials fee charge. So I still can take the assessment at any time, even though I have already selected a path. So I'm going to click on Take Your Assessment. And just like before, the very first question is your assessment language. So I'm going to do this together. I'm not going to answer the questions the way I would. I'm just going to actually pick them at random. And you're welcome to do this. You can do this as many times as you like. And when you get to the end, you'll get a recommendation. In fact, I would encourage you to do this at different times. Maybe do it a couple times if you're really unsure of what your common interests are. Time management, public speaking, and change management. Just to pick 3. I'm going to step through this fairly quickly because there's 25, 26 questions. And I'm just going to give you examples of what you can see what the questions are like. And the very first 3 questions are all about those top 3 priorities. So I'm now just going to click randomly. And as I do, I want to describe how I would do this for your club. If you have the opportunity or the technology resources to go ahead and have a webinar or a club meeting or a separate club meeting just to talk about club assessments, make it a goal to get everybody in the club chosen a path by, say, December 1st, and help everybody by conducting a meeting where you do just as I'm doing and demonstrating how to take an assessment. And again, I'm not reading the questions. I'm just going ahead and clicking through them just with a variety of different answers. I have no idea where this is going to take me, but that's not the purpose. You can see as I'm selecting the options, there's a percentage bar, a progress bar at the top, and I can't proceed unless I answer the question. But if you can, for your club, conduct these assessments, that helps people to see, well, this isn't too hard. These are questions, they're pretty simple questions that I can go through and answer. And by engaging everyone to see that it's very simple questions, it opens up the door for them to try it themselves. And also to try it a number of times to understand that if I take this test, I won't break anything. I'm not committing to anything. I just took an assessment to see where I fall. And how about that? Innovative planning. So that's the best match based upon the information that I gave on each of those questions. I'm reading about the innovative planning and it sounds pretty interesting. You can see, well, that's the best match. The visionary and the leadership development are also potential matches for what I've answered. But maybe I've heard about the others. So if I click on this additional paths at the bottom, you can see more, and perhaps motivational strategies. I saw a presentation on pathways and that one seemed really interesting. You can read more about motivational strategies and select this path. So at the conclusion, if ultimately you did select innovative planning, I'm not going to do so here because what it'll do is it'll kick me into my cart to buy it for $20. So, but if you choose the path, it'll select that path for you. I will say, and I've read that if you decide to change your mind, you do have 30 days to reach out to Toastmasters International, and at no charge they can change you as long as you haven't made progress on that path. So if you have regrets, you clicked it, and a few days later you really want to change your mind, I don't think the door is completely closed. That may be old information, but you should reach out to Toastmasters International to confirm. So if that is my path, I'm going to select choose the path, and now it'll be in my base camp for the path. So that covers the assessment. Again, very simple questions and answers. Get through the whole process. They give you recommendations. It's the path that we want to proceed. This becomes the objective. And again, all of the paths begin with an icebreaker. But the key for all the members in our clubs is that this is a new process, and many of us still have not chosen a path. So coming to the meetings with a purpose is really key to have a path. So with that, I'm going to step back into the slide deck. So we talked about the resources, and I had 2 more questions I wanted to ask before we open up the call for questions and answers. And we'll give a couple minutes for these questions So the first is just a survey. It's just kind of a feedback question for us, for me in particular, if this training was useful to me and or my club. So you can thank you, Dave, for getting up that survey. And keep in mind, too, that this is just the beginning. I failed to mention that at the beginning, but this is about choosing your path or pathways. So give you some information of where to find information about the paths and the process of selecting the paths. The first step in the journey is starting with choosing a path. There will be additional webinars surrounding the Pathways program, and we'll likely get into more detail. But today was simply introducing the process and really taking the first step of choosing the path. Give it another minute or another few seconds for this question. Thank you, Dave. And the next question, the final question, is I would recommend others to watch this recorded webinar. If you completely agree, you disagree, please let us know. Again, I tried to get the website information into the program. There's a lot of information that I didn't click on and show just because of for the sake of time. I want to be efficient and still allow plenty of time for questions, but let me know what you think, if you would recommend this webinar. Okay, thank you, Dave. And with that, we're nearly at 25 after. Just wanted to conclude and say thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate everybody's attention and time this Tuesday evening to share choosing a path, how to select a path in the Pathways program. And now I'd like to open up the floor to any questions that you might have. And Dave, if you want to moderate, maybe we'll start with the written questions.
All right. So Brian, I don't see any hands up yet, but we're going to give that a few minutes. And I want to ask a question.
Okay.
Because I was watching this, I appreciated you going through the questions, but what if I get to the end and I say, that doesn't feel right at all? What if I get to the end and I've got that question, I say, some of the questions, sometimes it's one way, sometimes it's another way, but what if I get to the end and I say, this isn't the right path for me at all? What do I do?
That's a great question. I had the same issue happen to me. I actually took this assessment 3 times before I ultimately chose my path. And what I would do, and I did this myself, but I would recommend taking that assessment in different environments. And I don't know if you've done personality tests, but wherever you are, you answer questions in the condition or the place that you're in. So if, for example, first time you take the assessment, it's at home, sitting on the couch watching a football game, and you're relaxed, not really thinking about things and just answering the questions, not putting it in context of your career and your aspirations and your goals. And you kind of end up with a path, well, that kind of sounds interesting, but it's not something that gets me excited. Try taking the assessment at different times of the day. So if you take it in the evening, also try it perhaps during the middle of the workday, where you're in that environment of working, in that environment of public speaking, where that communication skill is valuable for your career. Think of it in terms of timing, and that would be my recommendation. If you're vacillating about how to answer questions, a lot of them are, how do you feel? What are your strengths? Putting it in that environment of being in that place of where you'll apply that knowledge will help you get a better direction of, I think, what will give you the best value for your path.
Sure. All right. So we've got a question. So we have a hand up, and I'm going to go to that. If you don't have a microphone, we're going to ask you to type your questions using the Q&A. But Michael, you've got your hand up, so I'm going to allow you to. All right, we're going to allow you to talk, Michael. Oh, you are still muted. You have to.
Oh, can you unmute?
You're unmuted now.
I am unmuted now?
Yep.
Okay. So I have a question. I'm with Michael. We're in the Toastmasters together. But I I did the pathways. I just quickly went through the assessment and I selected one, but then I was kind of rereading some of it and I wasn't 100% that was the one I wanted.
Mhm.
But you mentioned something about being able to cancel or rechange it or something, but I don't really know how to do that.
Sure.
So,
Have you already selected the path in the Toastmasters.org website?
yes.
Yeah, so unfortunately, there's nothing you can do in the application, in the website right now.
Okay.
You need to contact Toastmasters International. And I apologize, I can't, if we can find that, I should have had that number available. But if you reach out and call them or email their support, customer support, they will let you change that path, especially if you have not done anything. You just selected it. And I think they gave 30 days. They may have changed that, but it has been 30 days that you have to change your mind. So
okay.
for sure, if you just chose it today, contact them tomorrow or later this week. You should be able to change that path.
Okay.
Not be locked in.
And then once I start doing my icebreaker speech, how do you do that on here? You know, like how do you record it, I should say.
Right. That unfortunately, for the purposes of time or due to the time constraints, I couldn't cover that topic as well. But the nice thing is the icebreaker is the same for all of them. It is a nice feature. You don't have to upload your evaluations, but the evaluations for your icebreaker could be printed out, written out, and the website allows you to upload your evaluation when you're concluded. Unfortunately, for the sake of time, I just don't have time to demonstrate that for you in the next 2 minutes. But I think that's a great follow-up topic for the next, because everybody's going to be taking their icebreaker and starting to put in their presentations. So sorry, I don't have the answer for you now, but that's a great point to bring up for the next topic.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Let's see. We've got a couple of questions on the Q&A board here. Robin asks, how do you earn levels like we had CC, Advanced Communicator, Bronze, CL, etc.? So, Brian, if you want to answer it, or I can answer it, whichever you prefer.
I'll take a stab at it and I'll let you finish, because my knowledge is limited in this area. I'm not a pathway guy, but I do know when you finish a path, you get a certificate for finishing the path. And in order to, there is a comparable designation called the DTM that still exists today under pathways. And the requirement for a DTM in pathways is to finish 2 paths, as well as some additional projects and some other requirements that are required. So Dave, do you have any, can you add more to that description?
No, as you move through, so as you're moving through your paths, you'll have, level 1 on any path is about 4 projects. So, it translates into about half of a CC is level 1. So when you finish level 1, you will have your Basecamp manager, authenticate the same way as you used to do with a CC. So they'll enter it in that you have completed level 1, and that'll allow a level 2 to be available for you. Now, to get the recognition, they still have to go into Club Central and enter it as the award. And if you, just like before, if you were a member of multiple clubs, you can do speeches in multiple clubs, and you can pick which club gets that award associated with that club. So that's why it's 2 separate things. So one to get you so that you can work on level 2, and then through Club Central to allocate the award to a certain club.
Great distinction. Yeah, for promoting achievements, you have to recognize the accomplishment in the camp manager, the base camp manager, and Club Central for the specific club.
Okay.
Dave.
Let's see. Ann Gretsch has a question. She says, once the 30 days are up, and she's asking, we cannot choose another path. And I'm gonna take this one. So right now, the club or the constraint is 30 days, and it's no questions asked. I'm telling you, if you call TI and you say, I made a mistake, I am almost positive that they will let you extend that 30 days. So you can't finish the path and then decide that you want to take another one. But, you know, as long as in earnest you made a mistake, you want to choose your path, I'm pretty sure you can change it.
Yeah, good point, Dave.
I want to thank everyone for coming out today. We've had a lot of fun putting together the subject list for this, and hopefully it is going to help make a difference and move the needle in our clubs. So I want to thank you all for coming out, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Have a great night, everyone.